we do have Coach Darko Rajakovic is moving on from the Grizzlies as an assistant coach. Been an assistant coach for a while now, and has really been good as terms of player development. And I think that's the really big thing that you see on the Grizzlies is how the players have gotten a lot better. So I will say, like, shout out to Coach Darko for that. I think that he's done a great job with that. And in his introductory press conference for the Raptors, he did talk about trying to bring some of that to Toronto as well. And I mean, I'm just going to throw this out there. Uh, he might be able to develop some of the same players when he gets there. If what happens the next what happens in the next couple of weeks happens, so he might be able to develop some of the same players up there. That's all I'm gonna say. But I will say, shout out to him, and I think he definitely deserves it. He had a really nice, message on Twitter talking about all the coaches that have helped him get to this point. And yes, it's always a good sign when people from your organization are making moves that are not sideways moves. You know what I mean? They're moving up. So going from an assistant coach to a head coach, not leaving and taking the same level of job somewhere else. I think that's always a good sign that like your culture and everything is going in the right way. And yeah, so I just shout out to him. It is going to be interesting because the Grizzlies are now going to have to, find somebody to replace him. So I'm not going to pretend like I know every single assistant coach that's out there waiting on a job. So I'm not really going to get into names, but I will say I think they need to try to bring in somebody who's a former player because I think that's something that could be very good. And I hear a lot of stuff. Like, I feel like people who are former players, they just think about the game differently. And I think that's just something that they might need kind of to be like, not necessarily a contrarian to like whatever Taylor Jenkins is saying, but more to give him more perspective of somebody who's been in those situations before. So, I'm not going to throw out any names or anything, but that's what I would say is I'd look for a former player because I think that'll just be something interesting to kind of add to the coaching staff as well.
Yeah. First, shout out to Darko. I think he was our top assistant for the last 2-3 years. Obviously, again, like he has a big hand in player development. And yeah, his introductory press conference was today. Shout out to my boy S. Berahini. He covers a lot of Raptor sports, and we're really just not Raptor sports, but Toronto sports, but like really the Raptors. And he was talking about or he was at the actual press conference today, and like you were talking about, what Darko was mentioning, like he was talking about like basically like player development is his biggest thing. Like for him, he's enjoyed seeing his guys get better, and being invested in those guys. And so I think that's the thing, that I think with the Raptors, for them at least, they have a interesting, like you said, they could pivot in a lot of different ways. They could say, hey, we still want to be competitive, or they still, or they could go in a different way and want to develop. But they have the coach who can do either or, I think, and who could be, a bridge coach in that way, where if you do decide to change it around, then you can do it because he has that type of development where you can build a culture and build a team because he's been around it with us, with the Grizzlies. So it makes a lot of sense. And so just for him, I think I think he's gonna it's gonna be interesting for him what he does. In terms for us with the Grizzlies, in terms of getting like another coach. Personally, I don't know. I mean, they might get another coach. I could see them like doing like promotion. So basically promoting like a Brad Jones or a school, like who's it, Vitali, and then you got a Sanya Ramen. Like you could promote one of them to being the head assistant or something like that, and basically, they could do that, or they could, like you said, go get somebody else, which is gonna be interesting. I really don't know what they're gonna do with that coaching spot because they do have one to fill. You know what I mean? And maybe
and I'll say this: I think it's probably more likely that they'll promote somebody to be like the top assistant and bring somebody else in, rather than bring somebody else in to be the top assistant. So I would lean more towards probably promoting somebody and then bringing in somebody else to just be on the bench with them. Like I think that's probably the most likely thing that's going to happen.
Yeah, I do agree. I think that they'll promote in terms of top assistant and then bring somebody in. But like you said, I wouldn't mind an ex player. Like you said, I think an ex player helps. I mean, we got a few on the staff already. And I think who's Vitali, he actually played. And not every, and other people played, but he played in the league. And so, like you said, I think that would help. Names though, like you said, it's gonna be interesting because I don't know who it is. Because again, it could be somebody's left field as a player that hasn't coached before. Because Quinn Snyder, I think in Atlanta just hired I think Epe Udo, like, and he was one of his former players for his last couple years with the Jazz. So they could do something like that where I don't know. I'm trying to think of a player that played for the Grizzlies.
Brevin
Back
Knight.
then.
Hey, let's just go for it, man.
Brevin Knight.
Bre-
But no,
Bre-
but like
Brevin Knight, if you're listening to this, we need you on the coaching staff.
facts. He be talking. He knows ball, of course. But yeah, no, like I'm trying to think of dude who played for us when Jacob's here. Like for example, like a Tim, like I think it's a Tim Frazier. Like he played for us for a small time, but who knows? Like it could be somebody as random as that. I really don't know because, like you said, like with former players, some people have already been in the league, but usually they're already with their staff. So it's kind of hard for me to see somebody that's already with the staff say, hey, I'm going to take this opening there. You know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with it. I'm confident that they'll find somebody that figures it out, but I'm very, we definitely going to miss Darko because, again, he was a top assistant, because they don't really tell you what others, all the assistants do and what their roles are. But with Darko and all the stuff that's come out, you could tell he was really hands-on. Like he was basically Jenkins' right-hand man. So, it's definitely going to be a big loss. In that, but I think they'll be able to pick it up and make up for it in other areas, whether it's Jenkins taking on more responsibility, assistant taking on more responsibility, shoot even players to an extent. I think they'll figure it out and be able to work around it, just like they always have with other stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And for anybody who thinks that assistant coaches aren't like that important, I will say a lot of Bucks players talked about like not having Darvin Ham after he went to the Lakers and how that was a really big difference this season and especially in the playoffs. So I think this could be something that's really important. Now, I will say the most important thing of the offseason is still going to be finding the replacement for Dylan Brooks. But I think that it's going to be pretty high on the list is find the next assistant coach that's going to be added to the staff. And it's going to be something else to kind of look out for as we are, officially in the off season now.